Welcome to the Note Investor Podcast. We'll guide you through the ups and downs of note investing and teach you all about the nitty-gritty details of the business that other people won't talk about. Your host, Dan Deppen, is a former aerospace engineer and product manager who transitioned away from cubicle life to full-time note investing in 2018. Our website is www.fusionnotes.com, where you can subscribe to this podcast, comment, and find links to other information on note investing.
Hey everyone, welcome to the Note Investor Podcast. I'm your host, Dan Deppen here, and today I'm joined by Dickie Baldwin from Baldwin Advisor Group. Dickie, how's it going?
Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Getting ready for Christmas.
Dickie, I really appreciate you coming on. So for folks who aren't familiar with Dickie, you've got a background in the mortgage industry that goes back, decades. I think maybe give us like a little bit of introduction on kind of how you found the note space and some of the things you've been up to over the years.
Absolutely. Boy, when you say decades,
Yeah.
that really makes you old.
Yeah.
But seriously, I have been in the industry approximately 40 years. Have done everything from be a realtor in Houston. I originated mortgage loans. I did wholesale lending. I did warehouse lending. I set up multiple net branch operations across the country for mortgage companies to become mortgage bankers. Became an investor in the note industry way back when nobody really knew what notes were. And also have been in the title side of things. In 2018, in March, I decided that I was going to retire because I was turning 70 in that following September. And so I shut everything down, and literally after about 3 or 4 days, I got extremely bored, realized I've got 40 years of experience, lots of vendor contacts, lots of seller contacts, lots of buyer contacts. So why not create a one-stop shop for the real estate investor that does just every kind of service imaginable for a real estate investor. We all know how difficult it is when you want to do a BPO. If you don't know where to go to get on the internet to try and find somebody that will work with you and give you a reasonable price, it's a nightmare.
Yeah.
So hence was the creation of Baldwin Advisory Group, better known as BAG. And as my slogan says, one bag for all your real estate services.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the absolute beginning a BAG. To form the company, I reached out to a lot of the different vendors that I have worked with throughout the years, set up relationships with them to where everybody is able to, and I like to use the quote, strength in numbers, because as an individual and a one-off client, whereas on the other side, and I use a BPO as an example, a typical investor may do 5 or 10 BPOs a year. I'll do several hundred a month.
Yeah, which makes life a lot easier, because I know like when I was starting out, when you approach vendors, if you're only doing one note, and sometimes people will get into the business, they'll do 1 or 2 or 0, and then move on. So it's kind of nice when you have a situation with this big network where you can take advantage of some scale.
Oh, absolutely. And as the business has grown and will be a year old in January 1, I'm working with the one-off individual as well as the people that are doing small bulks, getting ready to do some O&E reports and BPOs for a pool of almost 100 assets.
Nice. Yeah, I know. I've discussed doing some with you for some, smaller pools for Fusion Income Fund. So it's kind of nice when you can go to one stop and get all of those as opposed to getting on the telephone to separate realtors, 20 different ones. That becomes kind of impossible. I kind of like being able just to like send an email, here's what I need, and then you can kind of don't worry about it
That's
for a
it.
few days until everything kind of starts rolling back in.
Absolutely. So this is the website. If you like, I'll just go through and do some highlights on it.
Okay. Yeah, it sounds good.
Okay. Um,
I'm curious, who do you use for your website? Because it's one thing
oh,
I get.
I'm sorry.
Who do you use to to build your website?
It was built by a company out of California, and it being serviced by a little independent web individual based out of Arizona.
Okay,
And
cool.
he's in Australia right now, but as soon as he gets back, we're going to do some updates on mine, because as I said, it'll be a year old. January 1
Yep.
is when the site went active. But my goal was to help, not only the brand new investor. We mentioned BPO, or we mentioned title search, and a lot of times investors are sitting there scratching their heads. What is the BPO? What is a title search? Et cetera, et cetera. And so in designing the website, I wanted to have a brief explanation of what each one of the different services were. And then when I was able to speak with people, we could get more into depth as to everything that was covered that would benefit them in making an intelligent decision on the assets they're looking at.
Mm-hmm. Cool. So it's maybe like take a tour here and see what everything that's in
Absolutely.
there.
Well, as you can see, the homepage right here, if you'll just scroll down right underneath the homepage, what I've done is sectioned out each and every one of the different services that are available. And there are multiple services.
Yeah. And you might talk to some of these because a lot of folks will be listening to this on audio only. Some will be on YouTube and can see the video, but some won't be able to
Okay,
see
well,
anything we're looking at.
if it's on audio, it's www.baldwinadvisorygroup.com. And one thing I might mention, on each one of these little services, there is an order form. I've recently found out that in some instances under Chrome, it was blocking the order form. And so people would either go to Internet Explorer or take the blockage off of the
Oh, was
Chrome.
the order form like popping up in a separate window or something like that?
Yeah. And so there is a little glitch, which I'm going to be taking care of here in the next couple of days. Let's start off. We mentioned BPO. What I've done is, besides the neat little diagrams on each service, is just a brief explanation of what a BPO or broker price opinion is. So if you click on this little read more, this goes into a detailed description of what the BPO is, or a property inspection report. If you decide that you want one of these items, it's real simple, just by clicking here, and here's the order form, and I collect your company, your name, phone, email, what is the subject property's address, city, state, and zip, and if it's an interior inspection, assets. Is it a lockbox, or is there a person that we have to contact, etc.? Then it's just simply checking off. You want a BPO, you want exterior, interior. I even do full appraisals. Or do you want a property inspection report? Click
Well, you
off.
might talk about the property inspection reports a little bit. more, because those are
Absolutely.
something I kind of like having. So maybe
Yeah,
talk a little bit
I'm
about the
starting to
difference of
do
what's in those versus
more
the
and
BPO.
more of the inspection reports. What a property inspection report is when an agent will go out and take pictures of the subject and then forms that they complete, like, does it have a roof? Does it look like it's occupied? Is the yard maintained? Is the house up to standards of the neighborhood, etc.? Uh, the agent will take pictures of the subject and of the address if available, and then street views. Now, in a property inspection report, all of that is in there, but there is not a value. There's no comps that are used as compared to a BPO, which is also done by an agent, and they also give a detailed report on the property, but they will use three uh, comps in the neighborhood, three recent sold in the neighborhood, and the agent will come up with a value as is. And in some instances, if they're able to see what repairs are needed, do an after repair value. Now, there's a real quickly, Dan, there's a big discussion on somebody trying to find an agent to go out and do one of these services. I understand that people want to have the control of it, but the issue is, one, trying to find an agent that will go out and do it with the intent of actually giving a value on the property and not just trying to get a listing.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas you go through a third party vendor, my BPO vendors will, they vet the agents. They are paid to do a very specific job, and that's to go out and obtain a value in pictures, not to get the listing. Once the agent completes that, it will go into a quality control review. If the review has issues, they will send the report back to the agent for revisions before it's released to the client. So by doing this, you have an extra set of eyes, and it's really an impartial as far as trying to get a listing or not getting a listing, because even a lot of times on the BPO, the agent will not be listed.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not going to say don't call your agent to do a BPO, but if you think about the extra set of eyes, an agent isn't going to do it for free. Most of them don't have the right kind of forms to put an overview together, whereas the vendors that I have do.
Yeah, no, that's very good. Yeah, and I was going to say, I like having the property inspections more and more with them, because when they put the BPO together, they'll note like repairs that are needed on the outside. But of course, one of the big risks with note investing is you're generally not seeing the inside, and you don't know what lurks.
Absolutely.
So what I've kind of found is on the BPO, since they don't have other information, they kind of assume that the inside is all good. But if it's something where the borrower is kind of going to ride the ship down through a foreclosure and you're going to with it back, there's usually stuff going on the inside. So I like the property inspection report because it gives me more information on the condition of the outside, which I can then use to try to kind of extrapolate what might be going on the inside. So it gets kind of qualitative the way I do
Well,
it, but there's extra
I
information there I
mentioned
like having. So
I mentioned back in the old days when note industry was really unheard of, we would buy very large bulks of assets. And unfortunately, a lot of them were in Cook County in Illinois.
mm-hmm.
And the pools that we were buying, taxes hadn't been paid in 2 or 3 years. And so we started doing property inspection reports just to see if there was even a house there.
Right.
Because Cook County was very good about demoing a property.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah, yeah, lots of stories there. So one other thing I want to mention, I do have several hard money and private money lenders in the network, and a lot of them are using what is called a hybrid appraisal, and that's one of the uh, new selections that is going to be on the order form when we work on it by the year's end. But the hybrid appraisal, it's a lot cheaper than what a full appraisal is. And what happens in the hybrid, they will go out, pictures will be taken, and usually it's of the interior because you're able to, these are mainly on rehabs, etc. So we're able to get inside. So we do exterior as well as interior. And then that information is given to an appraiser that basically does a desktop appraisal. And it's not done by an agent, it's done by a licensed appraiser that is familiar with those areas. So that is also something to consider, because a full appraisal typically will be $500-600, where the hybrid is in the $200 range.
Well, and they would have to get inside to do the full appraisal, right?
Yes, yes.
So a lot of times that's not an option anyways if it's occupied property.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. So that takes care of the BPOs, unless you had any questions on.
No, that sounds good. Let me talk about the title searches and how that works.
Okay. And I've got to compliment you on your newsletter that I read last night when you were talking about the different steps and processes. And part of the due diligence, the two things that you highlighted are right here at the top of
the
BAG
BPO
network,
and the title search,
which are BPO and title search.
Well, yeah, because verifying your value of the asset and then making sure the title is clean are like the two of the biggest things. If one of those is not there, you're in trouble.
And so this is why we have them at the top. But on the title search, a title search basically is where they'll go out and pull any taxes, liens, judgments, anything that could potentially cloud the title. And once again, here's an order form where I collect the information, the subject information, and then are you wanting a current owner search, a foreclosure or two owner search, a 30, 40, 60-year search? Is it a commercial or an update of a search that typically will be done within the last 6 months?
Oh, so if somebody buys an O&E and then they need an updated version within some time window, 6 months or whatever, they can do that at a reduced price. They don't have to pay for the entire search.
Correct.
Again.
Now, I will clarify, a lot of it depends on who that original O&E came from. Because everything that I do is in the United States. There's some real cheap online overseas O&E reports that we have found not to be truly accurate.
Gotcha. So like what kind of things are investors looking for when they get the O&E report back?
The biggest thing in my mind, first off, is the delinquent taxes. And then you would go into the liens. But right at the very top of an O&E report, obviously you have who the current owner of record is.
Yeah, because you always want to verify that whoever owns it, well, if it's a contract for deed, or more, you want to make sure whoever you're buying it from are the ones on title. Because I've run into that before.
That gives you the avenue further in the report. There's a chain of assignments, because the last thing any of us want is to be working diligently on a pool that you think that you're working with the seller, and it ends up being somebody that's just trying to make a couple extra bucks by brokering the deal.
Yeah,
So,
or sometimes I've had it where the seller did own it, but they hadn't gotten everything recorded.
correct.
And so that's where I say, all right, well, let's get everything recorded first, and then.
Correct. So this, the O&E report, owner and encumbrances report, which is a current owner search, is really the most active. I will say though, there's a lot of times in contract for deeds that a lot of my clients are asking for a 2-owner search versus a current owner.
Yep. Yeah, I always like to go back through the chain a little bit and kind of see where everything came from.
Absolutely. And then once this form is completed and the code put in, you hit submit, and then that immediately comes to me. Now, I will say on the BPOs and the title searches, I handle those directly myself. The vendors that I have to do each of those entities or services, the product is private labeled under the bag logo. And when it's all said and done, the vendor invoices me. I in turn invoice you the client.
Right.
Typically only on BPOs and title searches. And then I'm able to keep track for you. If I ordered it on the 4th, I know it should be in by the 7th or 8th. And I'm able to stay on top of the vendor to get an ETA status. I might mention, in order to use the bag network, it really doesn't cost you. I don't have a subscription fee, a monthly fee, anything like that. My job is to give you the services that you need, and that's why I did the BPOs and the title searches as a private label, because it's able to group everything together, and it gives better control for everybody.
Yeah, I like it because it's kind of one-stop shopping. You're not paying any more on the pricing side than going, directly to some other vendors who do title searches and BPOs. But I've had a couple cases too where I bought like 5 or 6 notes at once, and it's nice because a lot of times I'm not in the habit of going to the website, but like a lot of times I'll just send you an email and say, here's what I need on these 5 or 6, and then I know it's all kind of taken care of, and then I can move along, to the next thing that I'm trying to do. So it's for the value for me is it's a big time saver, because I'm not hurting all the cats, and I'm not following up on 5 individual agents, because a lot of times, like I've contacted agents directly and had them get me BPOs, but sometimes they just disappear, or sometimes they forget about it. And then so you got to do all this following up, which gets to be a challenge when you start getting a lot of different balls in the air. So.
Absolutely. And you and a lot of other folks that deal with bag, instead of using the form, they do email me, which is absolutely fine. I mean, there's absolutely no problem emailing to D. Baldwin at baldwinadvisorygroup.com in what you need, because I will always follow up every time one of these order forms come across to make sure that all of the information is accurate, and then I can place the order.
Yep, for sure. And then, maybe you could talk a little bit too, because you mentioned RMLOs. So that's one thing I haven't done a lot of originating yet, but that's something that I'm kind of personally interested in, because I know some different options for getting that done. For me personally, doing seller finance is probably going to be a bigger part of my business going forward, as I have some REOs that are or potential soon to be REOs that are in the pipeline. I'll probably be exiting some of those by originating mortgages and land contracts and things. So maybe talk about that a little bit.
Absolute classic example. I was speaking with a investor last night that is fairly new in the business, but he's building a rental portfolio in Mississippi.
Uh-huh.
And he turned around and said, and I asked him about seller financing. He says, a lot of these people are going to be wanting to buy the house, so I might as well seller finance it. And so I made an introduction to my RMLO. RMLO, Residential Mortgage Loan Officer. This is not your typical loan officer that you bought your house with. This is a license through the FDIC that will originate seller finance mortgages compliant to Dodd-Frank, which is the key. And also issues a certificate that it is Dodd-Frank compliant. And so if you would ever happen to sell that seller finance mortgage note to another investor, that certificate goes along with that note. And my RMLO is able to originate nationwide.
Okay.
And once again, here's a brief description of what the RMLO is and an order form, because a lot of the contract for deeds are starting to go to seller finance. And so once again, each order form is very, very specific to whatever the service happens to be. Now, how does this work? And I mentioned referral. If anybody listening wants to know more about the RMLO, what I do is I do an introduction email to the RMLO as well as the client, and a little bit about the client, and then I put each of their contact info on the email, and then you are dealing directly with that vendor from that point on. And I know that everybody's going to say, well, why in the world is Dickie doing that? Well, what it boils down to is you're dealing one-on-one with the vendor. When it's all said and done, the job is complete, the vendor gets paid, then I've got an agreement, a referral agreement with that vendor. So once again, it is no money out of your pocket for the network that I have put together.
And I'm sure mileage varies state to state, but like, what's the approximate cost if you want to originate a note?
Approximately $500.
Oh, that's not too bad.
No.
Yeah, that's
no. There's some prices out there, 1,000 to 15. I've got a very, very capable originator that has done a fantastic job for everybody that I've referred over to him so far.
No, that's very, very cool.
One of the other things real quickly I'd like to mention, the handshakes, is the REO and notes section. What I do in this instance is I put buyers and sellers of assets together. I've got a lot of sellers that are starting to reach out to me, knowing how massive my database is nationwide of investors that are asking me to help them sell some of their distressed assets. In turn, I have a lot of buyers asking me to help them find assets. So what I've put together is this little order form where it's dated. I get the personal information. You let me know if you're a buyer or a seller. Are you private or institutional? You want notes? If you want performing, check it off. You want non-performing, you check it off. Contract for deeds, etc. Bulk or individual. And importantly, what states do you want to sell in or buy in? Then any comments that you might have? Same thing for REOs. If you're an REO buyer versus a note buyer, you want residential, commercial, bulk, individual, and the shape of the property. Once again, importantly, what states do you want? Put in the
And this is
code.
really important because I mean, one of the hardest parts of note investing is finding sources to go buy from. So it's really important section for folks who are listening to probably pay attention to, because you know, a lot of people probably don't realize that, you know, you can help them find inventory to go buy as well, whether it's notes or REOs. So
Absolutely. And I might mention that I do not publish addresses. I do not get in the middle of negotiations or chase documents. Classic example, Dan Deppen wants to buy a note in Wyoming, and one of my sellers has a note in Wyoming. I simply put Dan directly with that seller, and if a deal is transacted, I am compensated on the seller side. Once again, it's not costing you anything.
no, that's great. No, you
And
really
the,
do
and the other
have an
thing about
amazing,
tapes is why send somebody a nationwide tape when all they want is really concerned about one or two states? You know, what's happening in the industry is just, it's going bananas where everybody thinks they can buy everywhere. Well, you can't. And so why waste time?
right. Yeah, life is a lot easier if you can specialize in a few areas where you understand the rules, you understand the nuances and the laws, and you have teams in place. Yeah, if you just start buying all over the place, especially if they start becoming REOs, it's going to be a big challenge to deal with.
Absolutely. And so my goal in 2020 is to build my database up with both seller product as well as buyers looking for product.
Yep.
And so, I mean, obviously everybody wants Ohio or you know, Georgia, but in Idaho, Wyoming. I mean, every once in a while I get product in those areas.
Yeah. No, that's great. Well, thanks so much, Dickie. You know, you've really got an amazing wealth of knowledge and experience that other note investors can leverage through your network. So really
Yeah, well,
appreciate
and
you.
real quickly,
Yeah, sure.
I know that your time is short on these, but
No, we're good. We got
uh,
some more time.
we can do property preservation. For instance, I'm doing a lot on winterizations right now.
Yeah, it's
Uh,
probably almost late. People should have hopefully, if you haven't had your stuff winterized, you better get on that. You know, here in early December.
Absolutely. But I mean, property preservation, you think about everything that needs to be done, but just like this quickly, this order form, if you want to secure a property, if you want to do window glazing or boarding or debris removal, landscaping, uh, dryer vent covers, winterizations, inspections. I
You're
mean,
missing one. You need a pick for a plumber in case you forgot to do the winterization. So
absolutely. Well, what's so exciting about this property preservation, as we all know, property preservation companies deal a lot with FHA and HUD, and their pricing is in that arena that's allowable by Fannie or HUD. One of the other things, and I'll scroll down real quick, I'm putting together a nationwide realtor network, and these are investor-friendly realtors, which you and I have used together, Dan. And the whole goal is there's a lot of agents around the country. There's not a whole lot which I would consider investor-friendly. So the
Yeah, there's a big
realtors,
difference. I mean, most of them are, doing what I call like retail sales, but there are ones out there who specialize in foreclosures and REOs, and they're a different beast. They
absolutely.
get, and you got to find those. That's one thing I do. Like if I'm in an area where I don't have anybody and I'm calling around, I'll ask. I'll say, do you specialize in foreclosures and REOs? And if they don't, I'll ask them if they know somebody who does, because they usually do.
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Well, what I tell everybody, the bag realtors, and my goal, hopefully by the end of 2020, I will have an investor-friendly realtor in every major city of the United States. And these realtors can not only list, sell, or property manage, but they'll be able to do door knocking, or arrange to have door locks changed, or cut the grass, or do winterization, or even help on a rehab, because
Yeah.
these realtors either do it their own construction companies, etc., or they work with local contractors that they can refer. And then you, being in Colorado and you've got a property in Ohio, you'll have feet on the ground basically overseeing the work for you.
Yeah, having the right realtor is worth their weight in gold. I did one in Cincinnati earlier this year, and the realtor, she knocked on the door for me. There were some different, postings you had to put up. She went to court for me. When we had to do the clean out, she knew folks who could handle that. And it was even more complicated than a normal clean out, because we had to, the way Cincinnati worked, that the bailiff was going to show up. You had literally a few hours to get everything out by the curb, and then you had to move it again. And it was all seamless, and it was very easy to handle. Whereas if I was just on the phone trying to coordinate everything, it wouldn't have worked.
Absolutely. So I'm real proud of that particular service, because it enhances the property preservation side.
Yeah.
We also have various money lenders. If you need a traditional closing, I can help on that. And I'm also doing a lot of lender title policies right now through my title company, which is a whole new segment that maybe we may want to get some of my title people on and discuss the benefits of a lender's title policy.
Yeah, that might be a good topic for the next time you come on.
Absolutely. Title curative or release tracking, I can take care of that. Collateral review, many times individuals can have a package in front of them and they may not know what they're looking at.
Oh,
Or
that's
they
cool. I
just,
actually didn't realize you did that one. So
yes,
yeah.
yes. Another reason why we're doing this,
Yeah.
can I tell a story on you real quick?
Yeah, sure.
All right. You obviously were one of my original clients and do an awful lot of BPOs with me.
Mm-hmm.
And when we were doing that presentation in Austin and I was going through the website, when I got down to skip tracing, you raised your hand and said, "When did you get skip tracing?" Well, Dan, I've had it since day one. And
Mm-hmm.
so this is why I like going through this website, is to let you know of all of the different things. The collateral review, real quickly, they let you know what you do have, what you don't have, and what you should have in order to make an intelligent decision on the asset. I can also do the assignments and the recordings for you. I can store original documents. If you want to change your servicer, I have mortgage servicing available, self-directed IRAs. If anybody's got an IRS tax problem, I've got an attorney that will take on the IRS for $10,000 or more claims.
Fortunately, I've never needed that one.
Well, that's good, but it's there.
Okay. Yeah.
I've got the realtor network. I also have a nationwide attorney network that can assist in bankruptcies, foreclosures, document review, etc. And then the skip tracing.
Yeah.
So as you can see, there's services just picked up, and there's going to be a new box in here on insurance for force-placed insurance nationwide.
Okay.
And there's other, as this site has gotten out to more and more people, I don't know if I'm going to use them all, but credit repair folks have gotten a hold of me. Tax lien people have gotten a hold of me. They want to be part of this network because then my whole goal, I'm now 71, is I'm retired, but I'm having a ball working 60 hours a week helping.
Yeah, I was gonna say you seem like you're pretty busy. There's a lot of stuff going on here. So
well, it is, but you don't realize the satisfaction that I get helping individuals such as yourself accomplish your goals of building your portfolios. I mean, that's the bottom line of what I'm doing.
Well, thanks, Dickie. We've definitely been a big help to me. It made my life a lot easier as I've been picking up notes. So really appreciate it, and really appreciate you coming on. So I'll have to have you on again to go more into depth on some of these other areas that we didn't even have a chance to get into. So
absolutely. Well, in fact, if you scroll on the website I just pulled up, there's
I got my testimonial
right there.
Nice. Very cool. Well, thanks a lot, Dickie. That's a wrap, and thanks again, everyone. That's it for now. We'll see you next time.